Okay, for the curtain wall, we're going to use pretty much the concentric wall and just change it up a bit. So what we're going to do is push C on the keyboard or Control C and copy it and go to New Object and paste it. And then what we're going to do is delete these accents and the Merlins and the Merlin accents. And then we're going to take the corbels and we're going to add more, so we're just going to copy and paste and drag them about in between. And we're going to need more support because we're adding kind of a box section up here, which is going to be an enclosed area with a roof. And we're going to edit the bottom a little. Just pull it in. Actually, we can go ahead and delete that bottom polygon because we're not going to need it. And we can do that in the earlier model too as well. And since this is going to be a curtain wall, it's going to be a lot higher because it's going to be guarding the courtyard. We'll raise that up. And we'll raise these up as well, the corbels and that upward tilt. Okay, and then we're going to select a new layer. And we're going to create a box. And no segments. Okay, and we're going to copy and paste that into another layer and use it as a boolean to subtract the inside, just so we have our walls. We'll make sure it's cutting every part. And then we'll boolean subtract it. Delete the cutting tool, merge. That looks pretty good. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is add the roof. And the roof is going to be tilting downward, so we're going to edit that wall just a little. And just a simple box again. A little bit thinner roof because it's going to be made of wood. And we're going to edit that wall just to match up with that. Just so we don't get any polygons sticking out. It looks pretty good. And we're going to go ahead and delete these side polygons because we don't need them. So we're going to add windows in the inside looking down to the courtyard and just arrow loops in the front. So in order to create our window, we're just going to use the disk tool and create a one-sided circle, a one-sided cylinder. You can also use the ball tool for this, just as long as you don't give it any depth. And kill the polygon and delete these bottom points, the rounded part, until it's right down the center. And copy and paste those and drag them down. And then we're going to edit this, stretching it. In the center of the back part here. and create a polygon, selecting all the points in a clockwise fashion and pushing P on the keyboard. Then we're going to Shift E and extrude it. Okay. We're going to move this over. Try to make it about centered. And then mirror it. And there should be equal distance here as there is here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and Boolean subtract that. And as you can see, we have a little bit of strangeness going on once again, which always seems to happen with Booleans. Not all the time, but with certain polygons where there are more than 4 points, this usually happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to split it and see if that takes care of the problem. So we're going to go ahead and merge that first. Get rid of those extra points. Switch to wireframe mode. And split it. And see if that did the trick. Not entirely, so what we're going to do is take this polygon and we're going to cut it. We're going to paste it on a new layer and just manipulate it and edit it how we can. Select the polygon, well, polygons, and just go ahead and split them on the edges here. And that took care of most of it but the bottom. Okay, so we're going to have to rebuild this bottom polygon. Or another way we could do it is using the knife tool. And with the knife tool, you'll have to do a little more cleanup, but it's a lot quicker. And as you can see, we already split that. And all you got to do is delete that point, and there's also should be, nope, there's no polygon in there. So that fixed that wall, so we can cut it and paste it back in, merge the points, and there we have our inside windows. And now we got to make the archer loops for the outside. So we're going to delete the cutting tools that we made for the windows. Just create another box as our arrow loop. Right in the center. And then we're going to match these up. The center of the windows. Actually, pull it in just a little more. And these lines that stick out, the guides, are a very good thing when you're trying to center something by eyeballing it. And there we go. Now we have that centered. And we're just going to mirror it. And now when we do, since we are doing wall segments, when we put these together, there will be more of a gap between the arrow loops to the next section here. But that's kind of neat, and it's going to add something a little more variation to it, and I kind of like that. So it'll be in sets of 3 as we go down. So we're going to Boolean subtract that and see if all those holes went through. And they did. Now I think I want to make this top roof a little more interesting, so I'm going to knife it down the center, just about the center, and just pull it up a bit so that it's flat on top, and then goes down. And we're going to have to edit the other walls just a bit because of that. Just using the drag tool, Control T. And pull these down just a little just to make it pretty close to flat. Okay, now we're going to need to add our bevels. And this will be covered by the roof, and this will be right up against this, which will already have a little bit of definition there. So we're going to use that instead of beveling. And all we have to do is just knife it and drag it down just a little. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And now we have our accent. And the top will be covered by the roof, so we won't need that. But the arrow loops we do want to bevel. So we're going to go ahead and select all the polygons of the arrow loops. And get a good look at them. And as far as the windows go, we actually want to put a frame around them. And not just bevel these inward. Because if there were windows, they would have a kind of a stone accent around them. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did before. Just create a disk. And kill the polygon. Delete these points. Copy and paste them down a little bit below. And we're going to create a polygon out of this. I think that bottom part needs to come down just a little more. Okay, and then we're going to use Extrude. And we only need to extrude it a little, because it'll just be sticking out a tiny bit. But if you are in the inside of the castle, then you might want to see it in the inside as well. So we are going to make it a little bit bigger on both sides. Okay. And now we're going to copy it and paste it in a new layer. and try to size it down about the exact same size, just a little bit more inward than the actual cutout of the window. And then we're going to Boolean that. And merge the points. And that looks pretty good. And now if we were to bevel this, we would get a just about perfect looking effect. A nice accent. And we'll do it on the other side as well. And now we have that nice little definition. Okay, so we can mirror that. And it should match up perfect. Okay, we can delete our cutting tool. And now we're going to surface this. The first thing we're going to do is resurface the wall we took from the concentric wall. Just change the name, which was concentric, to curtain. And then the wall itself will change to just wall curtain. And then we still gotta change the allure. Wall curtain allure, which is the walkway. And we'll go into the next layer. And all these can have the same surface name. We'll just call it the top wall. And this we're actually gonna just smooth shift it really quick. Or actually, we're gonna knife it and give it just a little bit of a bevel on top here. Because if we smooth shift it, we'd have side edges, and we don't want those. We're gonna do the same thing over here. And in front. Alright, and now we just gonna call this top wall roof. And top wall window trim. And now we can cut them and paste them all on the same layer. And we are finished modeling our curtain wall. You can go ahead and save it. And just call it wall curt section. And there we go. And now we're going to move on to